This is Ready Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, the universal energy life force, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, and all levels. Reiki is a journey, not a destination. And on this Ready Set Reiki journey, we refer to ourselves as guides rather than hosts, as we too are traveling, supporting each other, and learning on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your first guide, Tracy C. Wright.
And I'm your second guide, Rose Whippich.
And today, what an honor it is to have two amazing Reiki master teachers here that truly live the Reiki lifestyle, and that is Colleen Benelli and Robyn Benelli. So, we're going to begin our journey with Colleen. Now, Colleen is a senior professional licensed Reiki master teacher for the International Center for Reiki Training and has been contributing author for Reiki News magazine since 2005. She is also an associate teacher for the Lightsong School of Shamanic Studies and has created the Reiki program for the school. She is also a full-time Reiki practitioner and blends her Reiki shamanic healing techniques in her Reiki session. Colleen, welcome to Ready, Set, Reiki.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So let's begin this journey together. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I guess I would share, I have both Reiki as a practice, as a business, as a career, as my passion. Also, I live in Portland, Oregon, and have two grown children, and Nick and Robyn is here, one of them. And then also married to my husband, Robyn, also. They're both Robyn, and have three grandkids. And that is the other part of my passion, is my family. I love horses. Horses got me into Reiki. When my horse went lame, that is where I decided to receive Reiki to be able to treat him. And that was 20 some odd years ago. And I had no idea that Reiki would be something that I wanted to do professionally or full time. But I think that, I used to say Reiki had a different idea around that for me, but I also really think that now there's an inner calling that Reiki actually, for me, helped me find what I was looking for and didn't know how to find it. So it compelled me to sell my other business. I made my living as a fiber artist for 15 years, and it was very successful. So I wasn't looking for something new. And then when I received Reiki, I just had to do it all the time. And so that leads me to today with all my different practices with it full time. And Robyn and I are full-time partners working with Reiki Lifestyle.
Beautiful. Now, I think I may know a little bit about this story because I had the honor of taking the master training with you. So, when did Reiki come into your life? Would you say that you found Reiki or Reiki found you?
Well, both. I think that Reiki orchestrates the the finding of it. And actually, I had started in shamanic training through just a random kind of looking for something. I've always been spiritual. I was raised Catholic and loved being Catholic as a child, but then started to question authority as I became a teenager and an adult. And I was always looking for some kind of a spiritual path. I've always been very nature-based, very animal-based, and was looking for something, some type of a path that included those. And that's when my hairstylist is the one who said, you should have a soul retrieval. I thought, okay, I'll do that. I had no concept of what it was or why I was doing it. I just agreed. And it was very life-changing. So shamanic, a soul retrieval is a shamanic technique based on the idea that parts of us can fragment through life experience, life trauma. And the shaman is able to go in and retrieve those parts and bring them back to you to help with the wholeness. So my teacher, Jan Inglesmith, at the time started teaching shamanism. And I just said, sure, I'll do that, and wanted to learn and study. Again, having no idea that it was going to lead me on this path. And about 3 years into that period, my horse, who happened to be my one lifetime dream horse, injured his leg and was lame. So I asked him what happened after all of the Western medicine, Eastern medicine, shamanic techniques, and really discovering it would be a permanent lameness. I asked him what happened, and he showed me an image of me putting my hands on him, and I knew it was Reiki. And he said that he went lame to deliver me to my power to heal. And I thought, okay, I know that that means Reiki, although I didn't believe in it. At the time, I thought, I don't know, somebody just does this stuff and they pass it on to you. And I thought, I just don't know, which is so strange because shamanism is a very outside of the box practice. And I had been studying that intensively already for 3 years. So there was that questioning of like, why do I not believe in this? And I procrastinated. About 8 months after my horse gave me that message, a woman came into my place of business and said that she was a psychic and had a message for me from my horse, and said that he told her to tell me that he had been telling me to do something and that I needed to do what he said because life was coming and I was going to need it. So I knew it was Reiki. I went and received Reiki, and it was this immediate remembering. And so it led me on this path. I thought that I would be working with animals, and actually then he said, no, you need to work on people. And I had no idea. I just followed the guidance. And that was in 2000, well, maybe 1999, 2000, so a long time ago. And it was very life-changing because Robyn was a teenager at the time. We, were very involved in the horses. She was in 4-H. It was a big part of our life. We had a 30-acre farm. Everything was about the animals and the horses. And I didn't know that it would take me on this path. But as I kept just following the guidance, it led me to want to be professional, to receive more training. I continued in my training with shamanism as well as Reiki. And that's when in 2003, I studied with William Rand and knew that he had the program, the licensed teacher training program, and decided that I would enter into that program. And so my shamanic training and my Reiki training really ran parallel, but also complementary. So I always worked with both of the energies and traditions and techniques, and then developed my own Reiki practice over time. And here I am today.
And here you are. And thank you for listening to that guidance because you have been such an important part of so many people's lives and journey. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. I always cared about contributing to wellness in the world. Even as a child, I was aware of that. And I was 16 the first time I heard Gandhi's teaching of be the change you want to see in the world. And I immediately knew that was my path. And I didn't know how to find it, and I didn't know how I would be able to fulfill it. I just knew that was it. And I happened to be dating my husband in high school, And we talked and he agreed, yes, that's what we want to do together. And I loved what I was doing before, so it wasn't with the fiber art, it wasn't as if I didn't feel fulfilled there either. But when I received my Reiki attunements, it just came in and it was so, as you guys know, it was so compelling. I have to do this all the time. And it did turn out that I needed to work with people. When I was doing a Reiki journey in those early years, and I did a Reiki journey to the spirit of my Reiki business and asked what my purpose was and what was my heart intention. And it gave me a completely different answer than I knew, which was that I would help Reiki become so mainstream that children would grow up with it as part of their wellness practices, and that they could also grow up and consider being a Reiki practitioner, Reiki teacher, Reiki professional, and that it could support them financially, support their families financially. So it was actually a professional path that they could follow. So I didn't know why at that time. And of course, this was so many years ago. And now I can see it. And as you mentioned, Robyn and I and two others co-wrote the animal Reiki courses, and the full circle happened where it all came back around to the animal Reiki.
Oh, that beautiful. Now, decades of experience, you have helped so many on their journey into the world of Reiki, becoming practitioners and master teachers. And as you stand looking back at your journey, working with people, what is a common misconception you find about Reiki?
Probably that, I mean, there's several. One of them is that it is going to be an instant cure.
Mm.
And I think that we always clarify that Reiki is a complementary therapy. And yes, have I had absolute miracles happen in my hands? Definitely. But as a Reiki practitioner, I can't guarantee that for people, but it will always bring a level of healing. And so even if I wanted that miracle cure to happen as the practitioner, ultimately Reiki was going to work with the person according to them. And a really good example of that was a dear friend of mine that was in the end stages of prostate cancer. And his sister, he was native, he was from the Flathead Nation in Montana. And his sister had sent him some dirt from a church in New Mexico that was known to provide miracles. So, as the practitioner, we decided we would do a miracle ceremony for him. And I had been working with him for several years already, but we were doing a miracle ceremony for him. And I'm thinking, okay, we are asking for the cure here. This is going to be the miracle. And when I asked him what his intention was, he said, well, I don't think this is going to cure the cancer. The miracle I am asking for is family unity.
Oh.
And it was so powerful because it was unexpected on my part, but actually his family was having a lot of kind of fragmentation over some of the issues that they were managing and some of the things that can happen in a family and that kind of an illness. And I have watched that miracle happen.
Mm.
They are closer than ever, and um, it was a big lesson for me. But the other thing that I think that the other misconception, I think, is really the understanding of Reiki is more than giving a session to another person or doing self Reiki. It truly helps us activate our consciousness in a way that becomes a powerful life management tool. And so our business name, of course, is Reiki Lifestyle, which again guided us because I didn't know that back in 2004, I think, when I was given that name, how it actually guides us every day in decision making, in clarity of mind, in simple clarity of well-being, the natural stress reduction. But on a personal level, it is something that I use all day, every day, and that it has so many more qualities than, giving Reiki to each other on a table, for instance.
Beautiful. You have been a part of so many people's healing and helping them through their challenges as a shaman, as a Reiki master teacher. But as you look back, what has been the biggest challenge or struggle you have faced in your own healing journey?
Probably expectations, and what I call the shoulds. I would have to say in my personal life, when I talk about the life management tool, the shoulds and priorities of trying to feel like, how can I help more people? How can I do this? How can I do that? And then, of course, prioritizing family and my personal life as well. I think now that is all very settled, and I have that is comfortable. Part of the challenge when my kids were younger and receiving Reiki at that time and being so compelled to do Reiki all the time, and that work-life balance at that time was more of a challenge than it is today. I have to say, I think the work part of it has a little bit higher percentage than the rest, because I truly, I wake up awake early every morning, and my first thought is, what can I write today, or what can I do with Reiki today? I'm just so passionate about it, and it has been 25 years. I'm 67 years old, and people say, well, are you going to retire? My husband just retired. It's like, no. It's what I think about all the time. And of course, now with Robyn being a partner, it just adds so much fun to it. And we work together so well, that it really has just been very, very fulfilling.
I love that. I love that. When I began my Reiki journey, it was in a small little business called the Energy Connection, and I met two teachers there, both that knew you. And when I came to find the International Center of Reiki, I took my classes over again so I could get the professional membership. And throughout the classes, it was just that people spoke so highly of you, that you were the go-to person, that this is my mentor. When I get my energetic tune-up, I go to Colleen. So with this one, when it's time for you to get your Reiki tune-up, what are some qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have as many colleagues as I do. So I'm able to really, I have Robyn to start with, so she's my first go-to. But I also have many colleagues, both through the ICRT and Light Song, my shamanic colleagues. I would say out of anything, so let's say somebody doesn't have the level of resources that I have, of practitioners, authenticity is first. But there's one thing that or one thought that I have worked with since the very beginning. And one of the influential books that I read way back when, 1990s, is Conversations with God by Neil Donald
Mm.
Walsh. And one of the things he talked about in that book that was so influential to me is all thoughts lead to one of two places. One is the thought may lead to fear, and the other is the thought leads to love. And I have always believed that, and this saying or teaching that that oh gosh, it just went out of my head in the quote, but everything from love is from God. If it's not of love, it's not of God. And so if I hear teachings of fear or kind of lower vibrational topics that people are teaching, then I know that's not a match for me. And so I'm always looking for that languaging that leads to love, that leads to wellness, that leads to empowerment, rather than any kind of disempowerment or any kind of fear. Also, for me, it's really important that somebody isn't presenting themselves as having the one right way,
Mm.
and also that it is not a judgmental style of practice.
Very good. There's some good qualities there to have.
Mm.
So you have authored the ICRT Animal Reiki manuals. You have written articles for Reiki News magazine since 2005. So some great books out there. So what books do you recommend that have helped you on your journey?
Well, the one I just mentioned, interestingly enough, another one that was really influential in my younger years, um, but way back when I was starting, was Marianne Williamson's book, Illuminata. And
Mm,
that book was so powerful for me because I did not learn how to pray by channeling my prayer.
mm,
And having been raised Catholic, we learned our prayers through memorization. And I don't know that I always really knew what they meant or felt them at a deep level. So when I was doing these practices and thought, well, I'm going to need to be able to do that out loud, how do I do it? I found her book, which is a list of prayers over particular subjects.
okay.
So at first, I would just read them. And then eventually, I would start to add some of my own thoughts into them. And then eventually, I could say them without reading them. And then eventually, everything switched into my own prayer, and my own ability to speak the words channeled that were meaningful to me. Reiki books, my latest favorite, I knew you were going to ask me this, so I have a stack,
All
but
right.
I'll just keep it short. But my latest favorite is Alternate Currents by Justin Stein. Fabulous, fabulous. It's so rich with information that it's almost line by line. I started highlighting everything and it's like just highlight the whole book. Um, so I really love that book. Shamanic Reiki Drumming
Mm,
by Faye Johnston is another one. The Ethical Psychic by Jennifer Lisa Vest is another really good one. See, I told you I'll be quick.
that's okay. Yep, take your
So
time.
Franz Dina, The Way of Reiki, Doi Sensei's book, A Modern Method for Healing, and then also Nicholas Pearson. I really like his book, Foundations of Reiki. So lots of really good books. I know Robin's going to share a couple too, but lots of really good books out there. Lots of great information about the history of Reiki that is being presented right now as well. So
Beautiful.
there's some business books, Pam LeBlanc's business book. Robin's going to share about that. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Love Pam. Love Pam. So, what other services do you offer with the Reiki lifestyle?
Well, we teach Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki master classes. It's all Usui, Holy Fire 3, World Peace Reiki. We are teaching online right now, although I am teaching in Japan coming up soon with William Rand on Mount Karama in person. And so the we teach Animal Reiki 1 and 2, and Master. Also, we teach what are called our Next Step Reiki training classes and Explore the 12 Heavens classes. And those courses are the Next Step course is 3 one-year programs. So each year is level 1, level 2, and level 3, in which we teach Reiki journey techniques and really in-depth abilities to access your own personal consciousness. And then really working with the spiritual realms of the 12 heavens, learning how to work with spirit guides, communicate, and really be able to deeply connect with Reiki energy in the way that we are able to observe how it's healing, what it's teaching us, and access our own levels of consciousness.
Beautiful. So
And then
where
our
can
podcast and our YouTube channel too. So,
Wonderful, wonderful.
and the
That's the next
distance
one.
Reiki share.
The next question was, where can we find you if we want to, connect with you, get a session, take a training?
Well, ReikiLifestyle.com is our website. Every week, we have a distance Reiki share on Tuesday mornings. They are 9:30 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. They are free and open to everyone. So anybody can join that. We have our podcast. Robyn can talk more about that. She's been really instrumental in developing our podcast to what it is today, and our YouTube channel. And now, as far as sessions, I'm not able to take new clients now, but we do refer our clients to our Danny Smith, who works with us. She's been with us for many, many years and very skilled, so people can get sessions from her too. But you can contact us at Colleen@ReikiLifestyle.com, and she would find out about a session request there.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you, Colleen, for
You're
joining me on
welcome.
this first part of the journey. Now I'm going to head right over to Robyn. So, Robyn Benelli, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So let's tell everyone about you. So RMT BSBA is a Zui Holy Fire 3 Corona Reiki Master Teacher, currently enrolled in the Licensed Reiki Master Teacher Training Program with the ICRT. Now, you co-authored the ICRT Animal Reiki Training Manuals and Courses. You co-host the Reiki Lifestyle podcast, one of the top Reiki podcasts globally. I know it for myself. I've seen it. It's #1. And a contributing author to the Reiki News magazine, as a co-creator and teacher of the Next Step Reiki. She teaches advanced Reiki journey techniques, including the Spirit Revival Technique, an advanced session method developed by Reiki Lifestyle. A second generation Reiki master teacher. She has over 20 years of experience as a Reiki master, holds a BS in business administration, and resides with her husband, daughter, dog, and cat outside of Portland, Oregon. So, welcome to begin our Ready Set Reiki journey.
Yeah.
So, here we go. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting, when we're listening to Colleen, of course, my own history is very intertwined with her. She's my mother. But a little bit about myself right now. I live, like I said, outside of Portland, Oregon. I'm very active with my daughter's life, of course. And so working mom, balancing all the things. She's just about to turn 8. We live at the base of Mount Hood, if you're familiar with the Pacific Northwest. And so spend a lot of time in nature and school activities, sports, my own hobbies as far as those are concerned, like snowboarding. I play adult co-ed softball. I have a game coming up on Thursday, so it's on my mind. And it's just so much fun. And so yeah, that's kind of my personal life. Obviously I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do and love working with Colleen and our team at Reiki Lifestyle.
Wonderful. Now, I know this isn't one of our set questions, but is it possible there's a third generation of Reiki masters in the family?
We have been told that. Yeah.
Mm.
So an interesting story. When I was very newly pregnant with Luna, is my daughter's name. And so I was very newly pregnant with her. I was actually in a Karuna class with Colleen, reviewing a Karuna class with Colleen. And we both came out of an experience that we both had the exact same kind of psychic impression or Reiki impression, that many of us get there, that she was excited to be a third generation Reiki master.
Oh my goodness.
And then my niece, Colleen's other granddaughter, they're also, and grandson, they're also attuned to Reiki. Luna's attuned to Reiki. So whether or not they end up professional, I would imagine that they'll get their master attunements. One of them will get their master attunements before it's all said and done. So I would imagine we'll have a third generation Reiki master in the
Wonderful.
family.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll ask this question. When did Reiki come into your life? Did Reiki find you, or did you find Reiki, or were you born into it?
Right. Well, yeah, I was thinking about that when you were asking, Colleen. Reiki, I'm probably one of the people that Reiki found me.
Mhm.
I know that people say that, and that they also, I mean, I think Reiki finds everybody, right? So there's that aspect to it. It finds everybody. But I was a preteen when Colleen entered all of these spaces, shamanism first and Reiki, as she said. And as preteens are, I did go along with some of it, and like in secret, I would like, enjoy the different things that we would do, but also as a teenager. And those things can be a little bit challenging, right? You are in that place where you are trying to establish your independence. So it's a long and winding road until Reiki called me back. But I was attuned to Reiki when I was about 15. So I've been a Reiki attuned longer than I haven't, and a Reiki master about the equal amount of time that I have not been. So I was attuned as a Reiki master around 20 and 40 now. But through all of that time frame, I definitely had to find my own path with these ways. I had a very culturally conditioned self, and I'm grateful for my entire path. I have no regrets around any of it. But I went to college, I got my business degree. I thought I was going to be, corporate America type, VP, CEO type person. That was just who I think too, coming up through the 90s and that kind of era. That was very much what the expectation was, right? You go to college, and then here's where your path lies in front of you. And so I did that, and I didn't make it all the way there, because I didn't make it because corporate America was very ill suited to me.
Oh,
I don't know, growing up doing fire walks and soul retrievals and things like that. I don't know why a cubicle wasn't a match.
right.
Hmm. So I kind of quit all of that. And I was living in San Diego at the time. I moved back to Oregon, and it's a whole, it's got so many different branches and arms. But then it was a few years later, I was an artist to just support myself. And then it was a few years later, I had like a near-death experience. And that's when Reiki really called back to me. And I had some resistance before that. I had to kind of go through my own returning to who I am authentically. I had to hear kind of those bigger things to life through that experience. And so that was when I started to work with Colleen, and I was doing it on like a part-time. I was kind of dipping my toe in. On top of it, it was the Reiki masters, it was the body workers, it was the those kinds of people that really, and Colleen and colleagues and shamanism and everything, that really brought me back to myself after that experience. I had more success in that area for my specific experience than I did in like the more allopathic, you know, path, which I found a few times over my life. But so I dipped my toe back into it. And then in 2016, after the birth of my daughter, that's when I became a full-time practitioner with her, with Reiki Lifestyle, moved right into all of the different things that we do here at Reiki Lifestyle. And I haven't looked back since. I absolutely, as she said, I absolutely love it. I'm super passionate about it. I love Reiki and the work and the community and all of the different aspects of it. And then, of course, the fact that I get to work with Colleen every day is amazing. We work really well together. And just, who we get to be as a family because of it too.
Right. And then, when you think back to Colleen's story, that psychic that came in and told her, she could have taken that information and be like, but she listened and followed that guidance, and look where you are today, how it has changed your life and your daughter's life. It's amazing.
So true. And same for me, like, just saying yes sometimes.
Yes.
That's really where it came down to, is like,
Yeah.
there's an inner calling right now. Reiki is here. Just say yes. And that's what I did. And everything has kind of unfolded from there.
And move forward. Right.
Mm.
Well, how fortunate you had kind of this special view in your teenage years to be around the energy and see groups and teachings, and then having 20 years of your own experience and teaching and being a part of the Reiki lifestyle. What do you find is a common misconception about Reiki?
I would actually agree with Colleen about her first point. I was like, when she said that, I'm like, oh, that was mine too. About it fixing everything. And I liked how she said that an instant cure, because I do think over time it does fix things, or it at least helps you to navigate things in a very different way than if you wouldn't have had it. And, but it's not necessarily going to fix something right off the bat. Sometimes what it can do is help you find solutions that maybe weren't what you were originally thinking you should do. So for an example, more health issues down the road outside of the near-death experience. I was in such a rough place. And, at this point I was professional with Reiki and, in Reiki energy every single day. And we all hope when we're in that position that Reiki is going to be the solution, that it's going to fix it. But what Reiki did do is actually it helped highlight the people that I needed to see in order to help me to navigate through those health issues. And that was huge. It's also helped me to navigate very challenging, different, friendship issues, all sorts of relationship issues, that makes you see things with more compassion, or maybe even more boundaries. And did it necessarily fix those, instances or those issues? Maybe it did, because it allowed me to react from a different place than maybe how I would have without Reiki. And now, granted, I do think that Reiki also fixes things. So it's not to say that it doesn't do that too. I just think that, people might come in and just think, oh, it's overnight, one Reiki session or one Reiki class, and everything's going to be changed or fixed, or, some people do experience that. So I don't want to say that's not possible. I know we all see it as teachers and practitioners, or we've experienced it ourselves. But I do think that it is this kind of wellness that we can experience over time in all aspects of our life, whether that's spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, or just even like with the people around us.
Beautiful. So you help teach advanced Reiki journey techniques. You help with the spirit revival or reveal technique.
Yeah.
And you have been this Reiki master for over 20 years, and you've helped so many on their struggles and their challenges. But what has been the biggest challenge or struggle you faced in your own journey?
It's a good question. When you asked that earlier, it's like I had an answer, and I think something else is, kind of coming through with it. I would say there's been a lot of self-worth that I've had to work on with it. I think that I'm kind of in that place right now to a deeper level. I think so many of the things that we can go through can be a spiral where we may have to revisit that on a deeper level and a deeper understanding of it. Having my life changed by my health issues, by having a daughter, being a mother, having so much of myself needing to be, placed outside of myself. And that's just a normal role of parenthood, that you do, have that aspect of it, that all of that can shift your own inside perception of that. And looking over the years of how much I've had to navigate that, and that has been a challenge with Reiki. And it's so funny because I think, like outwardly, it might seem like there's a confidence level there, and there is that too. And I talk about this very commonly. And then at the same time, it's always interesting how sometimes we still have that inner work to do. And I would think that kind of all practitioners and teachers and people who do this kind of work recognize that there's always that room for growth, and there's always that room for expansion as a person. And then also there's that place where it's like recognizing yourself for that growth and that expansion that you have done, and being settled in the beauty of that. And so that's been a big piece. I've had where I was going to go was that whole physical thing that I kind of talked about, but then I was
Sure.
like, no, this is a really big one, because I think a lot of people struggle with that in a lot of different ways. And so I think it's an important topic to also bring up, that, yeah, we're still navigating that one.
Yeah, well,
So,
thank you. Thank you for sharing that and being so authentic. Yeah, someone may be listening to this and be like, wow, this really resonates. Yeah, thank you. So growing up, you had a mother who was a Reiki master teacher. So you had Reiki all around you and had access to many different practitioners. And so when it's time for you to get that energetic tune up, what are some qualities you look for in a Reiki practitioner?
yeah, as Colleen said, definitely. So very lucky to be surrounded by really skilled, obviously Colleen as number one. And then, we've got Danny, but then so many different colleagues in the community, and that we can turn to for different things. But I would say one of my biggest things is listening, that the practitioner gives me the opportunity to speak, and really also listens, um, because I think that so many people feel unheard, are unheard, even the people that may have a job where they speak a lot, that they might need that space, for somebody to really hear kind of those deeper things that somebody may need to put into the space. That I like, for me, for example, yeah, I have a job where I speak a lot, but I'm not going to necessarily speak about the things that I need healing with. I mean, I do, obviously, I just said that, but so somebody that really listens, and somebody that doesn't make it about them all the time. There are times where a practitioner might have a really important experience to share that really relates to the healing that you might be going through as a client. But I do think that I've had some practitioners that relate everything back to them and their experience, and that can be really challenging for me personally. Now, somebody else might find a lot of solace in that, because there can be sometimes a level of mentorship. But those are the two things: the listening, and them really making it about me as a client.
Beautiful. And while you were talking, it took me to the manual for the animal Reiki of your listening technique that you have in the manual.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
yes, the Animal Reiki manual has wonderful techniques in there to use as a Reiki practitioner. So, and Robyn does model one of the different techniques.
That's right. She's talking about owl eyes, and yeah, it's these pictures, and I had to take them myself. They're like the worst pictures, and I was like super sick at that time frame. And I
You
laugh,
never
and
would
I
have
laugh
noticed, but what a difference it
every
made, right?
time. But it's an important technique, and we laugh. I laugh about it every time. It's totally okay.
Very good, very
Yeah.
good. So, growing up in a household where Reiki was around, moving forward and going into this profession yourself, what advice would you give someone who's just entering this type of work?
The advice that we give very commonly is definiteness of purpose sustained over time produces results. That's a quote that Colleen said, or that William said to Colleen at one point. And that is one of the biggest things that we still use for ourselves today, that just keep going. It is. And did you mean like a business, or did you mean just in general?
It could be just in general, but if that's what
Just
you
in
were
general.
called to, that's the
That's
message
what,
for the
yeah.
collective. So whatever calls to you.
Okay, yeah. That's what I would say, is I would say that, just keep going. It's the same as building any sort of business in the 21st century, that it just takes time and commitment and listening to the energy and to yourself. And I think that that's one of the biggest pieces of advice. If it is from a personal standpoint, I would say be gentle with yourself. There can be a lot of movement when it comes to starting out with Reiki at first. There's a lot that processes through. And I think that it's important to give yourself grace as much as we can. And be, you know, allow the Reiki energy to kind of cradle that space that you're in, or the healing energy, whatever, regardless of what you're doing, cradle that space that you're in as you're moving through the things that Reiki can move.
Right, right. And I think a lot of people forget that or not aware of that when they sign up, how it really shifts and change your life. So I like how you use the word cradle.
Yes.
So what books do you recommend?
Yeah. So Colleen named a few of them for sure. So she named a few. Yeah. So I liked, I would have recommended Alternate Currents and Francina's book as well. But the other one that I would recommend is Anne Baldwin's Reiki and Clinical Practice. She also has a new one out. The vagus nerve in clinical practice, I think, is the title of that. That's also excellent. And also, it's not a book, but the Center for Reiki Research is another really great resource if you are practicing in any sort of medical field or introducing it to any sort of even like a chiropractic office as a complementary therapy, or a vet's office. These resources that can state the research that's done on Reiki can be very, very helpful in those things, in the places where they need data to be able to approve Reiki entering the space. So those are a few. As Colleen said, the Reiki business book some of these I've lent out. So, and I was looking for one, and I was like, I don't know where it is in this moment. So the Reiki business book by Pam Allen LeBlanc. And then off a little off topic with it is, there's two books. One I have, the other one I lent to a friend, is when you're first starting. This one is Animal Speak by Ted Andrews. And then the other one is Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen Farmer. Because one of the things that can happen, now those are more from a shamanic standpoint, and animal totems and power animal spirit guides, things like that. But it can be really helpful to have those handy, or a similar version handy, of either animal messages or angel messages, because those kinds of things can really start to happen with Reiki. And it's nice to have a vetted source on kind of the meanings behind them. I also like, this is another one. This isn't actually an oracle card deck. It's called The Way of the Horse. That's by Linda Konov, who wrote the Tao of Ekis. And she has an amazing oracle card deck. I have like 5 oracle card decks sitting on my thing. But those are just a few of the things that aren't necessarily Reiki, because Colleen mentioned a few of those that I think can be really helpful resources when you're first starting out and those impressions start to come in and you want to know what does the hawk mean, that when it showed up in my experience, my attunement, my session, or my dream, or just in the world, I had this experience where hawk came and landed and stared at me. It's really nice to be able to have resources for that.
Beautiful. Take notes, everyone, because you're peeking into Lifestyle Library, right?
Yeah.
Reiki Lifestyle Library.
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention it's not a book, but it is a booklet, and it's a resource that I continue to use and share with my students. Is your invocation booklet that is on your website. So I give that out very frequently and share that. I mean, wear that thing out. So if you want to tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. Funny, we always forget to say our own resources, but what Tracy's talking about is on ReikiLifestyle.com. If you go into the Reiki Library tab, there is a section called free downloads. And in those free downloads, we have a couple of things that can be helpful. What she's speaking of is a prayers and invocations booklet that Colleen and I have put together that you can use for your invocations for anything that you might be doing. So they're free. You can read them out loud. You can change the words if you want, take bits and pieces. There's also 5 steps on how to create your own invocation. What an invocation is just bringing in the energy, any guides you might work with, and setting a container of the space. So many times before like a class, we'll always do an invocation before class. And before maybe you're doing a ceremony, or even before a session, you might want to do an invocation. So those are there for that. And then we also have elevator pitches on there that you can also download. And there's like 2 or 3 different kinds on there. That one's a little shorter, but it's nice because it can inspire how you may want to give an elevator pitch to somebody who's asked, well, what's Reiki? And for some reason, for all of us, that's like, how do I explain it? Even after all of these years. And so there's a couple different versions of those too, which can be helpful.
Lots of amazing resources on there. And your prayer and invocation is also offered in Spanish as well, as I use it here in El Paso, Texas. May not be able to understand it or read it, but I can certainly give it to my students as a resource. So wonderful. And that's one of the things I like about the Reiki Lifestyle and the International Center of Reiki is the manuals, they're evidence-based. You cite things, you back things up. And that was such a wonderful thing for me. When I began my journey, my teachers were amazing, but those manuals were passed and changed down from teacher to teacher. So some of the information was kind of either outdated or incorrect. And then once I connected with the International Center of Reiki, it's like, yes, we have what we're learning here, say in Texas, is something that someone's going to learn in Japan or Russia. We're learning from the Healing Touch or the ICRT Animal Reiki. So that's a wonderful thing about it as well. As you begin your journey, if you're listening and choosing a path, reach out to these really wonderful resources that are available. Yeah. So what other services do you offer? Do you have classes, trainings, workshops?
Yeah, I am the same as Colleen, that I'm currently not taking new clients, but refer to Danny, who is a practitioner with Reiki Lifestyle. But we do teach. And I will say, Colleen left off Karuna Reiki. So she also teaches Usui Holy Fire Karuna Reiki. And then we will be moving into Next Step. The new year of Next Step Reiki is in January. That starts in January and goes through December. Amazing, amazing courses. And then, of course, Reiki 1 and 2, Reiki Master, Karuna Reiki, Animal Reiki 1 and 2, Animal Reiki Master, all the things. And then if anybody just needs community, as Colleen was saying, that free distance Reiki share every Tuesday morning. We've been doing that since the beginning of the pandemic, every single week. But we missed 1 week because it was on the 4th of July. It was actually on 4th of July. So we didn't do it that week. But we've been doing it every single Tuesday morning, and it's a global community. We have people from usually every continent, sometimes Asia because it's so late or early in the night there. And we just find that sometimes people in maybe rural areas, places then that maybe don't have a lot of Reiki, or maybe even in their family it's not super supported. There's an opportunity for community, and we really are. I feel like we're friends with the people that are there, that have been there. New people find it all the time. We keep it really casual, so you can come late, leave early, leave your video audio off. People join from work, and we're there supporting each other, and it's a really loving community. We keep it very safe, as far as how you can feel coming in, how you don't have to give and receive Reiki with each other. There's options on how to not have to do that, but we always do a guided journey. We do or talk about Reiki things. And that's one of the biggest things that we've loved to see develop from that space, is that community and that support that we have with each other, especially through the last 4 years and moving into the next few months. It's really important to have that with each other.
Beautiful. So beyond Reiki Lifestyles, where else can we find you if we want to connect?
I am mostly on Instagram. So my Instagram is Robyn Benelli Reiki. And I don't post a lot on the but I post a lot in my stories. So you can kind of actually see what's going on in my personal life there. And so you can find me there. It does translate over to Facebook, but I'm most active on Instagram. So that's where I'm, talking with people in DMs and commenting on other people's posts and things like that, where, again, that community that's really beautiful. As you said before, the podcast is on all platforms. And then it's also on YouTube, where you can watch it visually if you would like, or you can just listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, however you listen to podcasts. So there's that. My email is robyn@reikilifestyle.com. And then, of course, at reikilifestyle.com.
Right. And both of you can be found on reiki.org as well.
Yes.
Of your reiki.org.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Robyn, for doing this part of the journey with me. And I'm going to pass you on to my co-guide, Rose. She's got some questions for both of you. So, Rose, the floor is yours.
I just want to say one thing, that when I started my Reiki journey, all the articles that Colleen wrote, and many are posted on your website, really helped me. And I have them printed out in a binder from way back when. So I still have them. And the magazine from the Reiki.org, the Reiki magazine. Wonderful resource. And I know both of you and all of us here have actually contributed to that articles to that magazine. I just wanted to add that, if that was okay. All right. So these three social media questions, actually two of them, and then I have a question. Tracy has solicited from her audience, specifically for the two of you. So the first question I'm going to direct to Colleen. Can you tell us about the ICRT program? And I believe this is about the Licensed Reiki Master Teacher Program specifically.
Yes. So the ICRT, International Center for Reiki Training, which was founded by William Rand, and then Laurel Gaia, who was my mentor, really developed the program also, is a training program that really establishes a powerful level of professionalism and outreach. It is definitely a professional track where people who want to have a Reiki business and be able to have an outreach on a larger scale are joining that program. It's an extensive training, and you receive a mentor that you meet with monthly, some, twice a month, more than that sometimes, and then go through the program with the training. There are certain requirements that you have to meet in order to become licensed. 100 documented sessions, mentoring with your teacher. There are numbers of classes with students that you're required to hold, papers, tests, the whole thing. The benefit of it is, of course, the training to begin with. I am such an advocate for training and skill development. We know that Reiki works regardless, and we know that people can be wonderful teachers, wonderful practitioners, and not be in the program. So it's definitely not trying to establish a hierarchical level of, like the best, because there are many that are wonderful experts and teachers. But the program for the person becoming the licensed teacher really does provide a level of outreach that I don't think I could have reached without it. And that be the change you want to see in the world, for me, was a very compelling reason to begin that program. My teacher, Laurel Gaia, who was the director, passed away a couple years ago, but she had a stroke in 2015. So my colleague Karen Harrison and I became the co-directors. We now have Jill Teal and Pam Ellen LeBlanc as assistant directors. And now I'm also the executive director of the ICRT program development, ICRT program development. So I always lose track of all the different titles. But anyway, if someone is interested in that, you can go to the reiki.org website, and right on the homepage at the top, it says Licensed Teacher Training Program. And the information about it is on the website. They can also reach out to me too, but that's the first place to look to see if someone's interested. The other thing I would add with that is many people want to develop a Reiki business, but they don't necessarily want to become a licensed teacher. And I also encourage people to go through not the application process, but the requirements once you're accepted into the program, and follow those guidelines just on a personal level, because they really help you with Reiki business development.
Thank you. Robyn, this question is for you. What has surprised you the most about Reiki?
I'm going to go back to what I was saying is the community. I think that I tell this story a lot about how when I first started with Reiki, that I was pretty against social media. We have our problems with social media, so I'm not saying it's perfect, but a lot of it I didn't realize was also my algorithm. And when I started adding more Reiki friends, or Reiki friends started adding me to it, my algorithm changed. What was coming through my feed was a lot more positive. And I just see that in the Reiki community pretty consistently, that it is a really positive community in general. And you don't see that everywhere. And that's a really beautiful thing. With Reiki itself, I mean, it's just, like mind blowing what you can experience in Reiki, and what Reiki energy can lead you to. And as I said, the things that I have gone through before, I was so using Reiki in such like the daily integrated way, versus after is really night and day. It's so beautiful to be able to listen to this enlightened energy that's within us. Of course, it's key, but it's also provided from source. And that is a really big, that's really big for us to come back to that, like remembering of love as we're navigating our human duality. And then also some of those mind-blowing like experiences that we can have through Reiki, you know, where you just go into the universe and it's unbelievable. It's endlessly fascinating. It's endlessly beautiful and endlessly expansive.
Yeah, it's life-changing. I've experienced a lot in my life, and Reiki's always been such a wonderful resource and blessing, and I can't say enough about it. It's just magical.
Yeah.
This could be answered by either one of you. It's actually a question that I have, or both of you as well. What is your vision for Reiki, or how do you envision Reiki growing or changing in the future?
Go ahead, Colleen.
Well, I think my vision is still the one that was given to me so many years ago, to see Reiki become more and more mainstream as part of people's wellness and healthcare, that the benefits of it are so powerful on multidimensional levels, and the understanding that energy healing, spiritual healing is as important as physical healing, and often the basis of physical healing, mental, emotional healing as well. So I would like to see Reiki, and I believe it is happening definitely from the time I started way back when first of all, people said, you know, if I said Reiki, they said, what is that? And also there was quite a bit of controversy around it on a personal level, with just, you know, what are you doing? Have you entered a cult? What is it? You know, those kinds of things, and a lot of fear around what it is. It has certainly become more and more mainstream, widely used in medical practices. The books that Robyn just shared from Ann Baldwin and the Center for Reiki Research has really shown the evidence base of the effectiveness of Reiki. So that is still my passion. We think always in terms of everything we do. How does this help people? And how do we help people? Because we do teach a lot of teachers that are also, so we're always thinking in terms of, well, if we're doing this, just like the invocation booklet that you mentioned, you know, that was very much, we did that initially because people were moving online with Reiki, and it was brand new for everybody to be online. And we thought, oh, here's an invocation booklet that can help people just be able to start their own community online. And so that's always our thought process, is how do we help the practice itself grow? And I really know that that came from Usui Sensei's very first decision, was to spread Reiki in the world. And it was his instruction, was spread Reiki in the world. And so I think that's the nature of that compelling factor that we talked about, was how can we share this so more people can share this, so more people can share this, and really the profound benefits that Reiki provides.
Great, thank you.
And I have a slightly more obscure answer, but I wanted Colleen to answer because all of that also. But one of the things that I find with it that I think is a really beautiful piece of it that I could see it being a part of is that it can be. So first of all, I want to say the caveat is that I'm totally a proponent of plant medicine, especially for spiritual experiences and the healing that can come from it. But not everybody is able to do that for a variety of reasons, whether there's health reasons, whether it's sobriety, whether, you know, there's a lot of different things that people, there's reasons that they can't. But I do find that you can have spiritual experiences through Reiki and different techniques that we can use through Reiki that don't require any external aids. And I hope that more people get to know that aspect of it, because it can be really helpful for a lot of different reasons that have a similar response, similar experiences through Reiki energy. So I know that's obscure, but I just always like people to know that, because I have epilepsy, so I'm not a person that can. And so being able to have spiritual experiences to that level through Reiki energy is really incredible.
Well, thank you both for being here with Tracy and I. I'm Rose Whippich, and my podcast is Chat Off the Mat. And now I'm going to turn it back to Tracy.
You're on mute, Tracy.
Before we sign off, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners, or you had a special message, or as we talk, maybe there was something that you might have forgotten?
I would just like to say thank you to both of you for all that you do, and being colleagues, being community, and contributing in the ways that you do as well. Both of you, thank you so much for all of your work and all that you provide and offer.
Thank you. Robyn, did you have anything to add?
I think that's a great place to end and agree. And I just love that there's these conversations that we get to have together, and that people are listening. And again, just that community aspect, whether we're together or across the country for each other, or across the world, and people that are listening now or later, and all of those things. And I think that's a really beautiful aspect. So thank you both for having us.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining me on this journey. Thank you so much. All of you on here are so incredibly busy, but thank you for being a part of the Ready Set Reiki journey and all and everything you do. And I'm going to leave it with, be that change, right? Be the change you want to see. So, my wonderful listeners, if you want your question featured on the podcast, reach out at www.readysetreiki.com. Check out Feather Sister, which offers a variety of yoga classes and Reiki trainings, www.feathersister.com. I'm Tracy C. Wright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.